Happy Thursday. We're live right here on the San Francisco 49ers Report by Chat Sports. Chase Sr. here with you, and you're all here hanging out with us. And we appreciate you no matter where you're tuned in and how you're tuning in. We have a loaded show coming your way. It is the bye week, but we're not taking a break here on the program. Plenty to discuss as it pertains to this football team that has lost 3 games in a row. And I'm really excited to dive in because coming up on today's show, some changes that the San Francisco 49ers can make on the bye week. We have a new Deebo Samuel injury update. San Francisco making a couple of roster moves that could impact this team during this playoff run. Are the 49ers going to sign Chase Young to a contract extension after this year, after trading for him? And of course, we'll be taking your questions all throughout the day. Please make sure you get involved because we love hearing from the faithful. Use hashtag 49ers, better yet, Super Chat if you want to donate to the show. First, though, we already have 160 people watching live. Do us a favor as you come in here. Make sure you hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. Also, keep that comment section flowing. Where are you watching from? Let us know in the chat. We'll start to give you some shout-outs here. Brother Man saying, what's up, Big Dog Chase? Wet Noodle 187 in the building. What's up, Chase? Great to see and hear information on the Niners from Henry. B-Dog, what up, fam? SIC, can't wait to see if Chase Young will get Bosa to increase his sack numbers. As for the locations, Brother Man is in the Big Apple. Time in the Buckeye in Ohio. Darius, South Carolina. Maricopa, Arizona. Certainly a very important place during election season. First live stream, Indiana. What's up, Chase? I'm X-Destroyer. Everybody type Destroyer down in the chat. Thanks for joining us for your first live stream.
Chase, I see in Northwest Arkansas. Woo frickin' pig.
Let's go. We also have Akron, Ohio, the main library from Mr. Block Ice. Gina G, the OG, Chino Hills, California. Good stuff right there. Again, as you come in here, please make sure you continue to hit that thumbs up icon, like the video. More likes that we get, the more people who find us, the more people who will watch, and the more fun and informative that the show will be. Speaking of being informative, if you like to play daily fantasy sports, there's no better app to download and have on your phone or any of your devices than Prize Picks. You can get up to a $100 deposit match at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use the code CLNS for that deposit to hit. It's daily fantasy made easy. You pick 2+ players. You choose more or less on their projected stat totals, and it makes game days a lot more fun. Here are my picks for the biggest game of the weekend, in my opinion. If you're a Niner fan, you obviously can't watch San Francisco on Sunday, right? Pick another game that has implications in the NFC to watch, like the Philadelphia Eagles against the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys rushing defense, not all that good. That's why I like DeAndre Swift more than 61.5 rushing yards. Jake Elliott more than 1.5 field goals made. And I think Dak Prescott's going to be able to rack up some air yards against Philly. 253.5 passing yards. Give me the more right there. Doja Boys 209. Our first super chat of the live show. Is Lyle Collins a better option than any of our offensive linemen, or is he really that washed? He is still a free agent. Funny that you say that because we're going to talk about the top free agents coming up on today's show. Trace, we have some numbers for Lyle Collins that we can pop up. For him, you know, the Bengals signed him to be a right tackle. While he was with Dallas playing his best football, he was playing on the interior of the line. I do think Spencer Burford at right guard is a little bit of an issue. So I think Lyle Collins, if Burford continues to struggle, why not go with a player like Lyle Collins? At least bring him in for a workout to see what he'd be able to do. Before that awful knee injury in 2022, wasn't having a good year for Cincinnati. They can't seem to get that offensive line right, but last week they really covered well against this Niners front. 5 sacks, 7 hits. So Burford has really struggled. His Pro Football Focus grades are not good. He's given up a lot of pressures. At this point, I'm looking for any way to improve my football team. And as part of that, I'm bringing in a player like that for a workout. How are you recovering off that knee injury? And can you help us? if you're healthy and you can help us, backup offensive lineman, shoot, Aaron Banks is going to be out for the next 3 weeks. John Feliciano going to fill in at left guard there. So you're already becoming a little bit thin at an already pretty weak position on this football team. Now, it is the bye week, as I mentioned, for San-FRAN-CISCO. But we do have a bye week Super Chat menu. All Super Chats get a shout out like Doja. $10 Niner mug cheers. $20 I'm cranking out some jumping jacks. $50 for a beer bong. And if you send in $100, you are a new member, an exclusive member of the Gold Mine Hall of Fame. We also want to hear from you. You can ask us anything. I believe that we include the audience as good as any YouTube channel out there covering the Niners on a daily basis. Couple of ways for you to get on the program here. Use the hashtag 49ers, better yet, Super Chat to get involved. And if you're ready to start the show, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. Now, just taking questions throughout the show. Get those likes up. 200 people watching live. Can we get close to 100 likes before we start the official show? For instance, I asked you to use hashtag 49ers and like the video. Mr. Block Ice did both. Mr. Block Ice with this one. You think it's time for Steve Wilks to get out of the booth and go to the damn sideline? I don't know how much of an impact and how much of a change we'll see from this Niners defense if Steve Wilks is on the field as compared to him being up in the booth. I think right now, a lot of the issues defensively for this team are scheme and system. I do think, though, that me personally, I like coming physically to work, right? I don't like to work remotely. During COVID, I was working for a news station. I didn't see my coworkers for months. I didn't talk to my bosses for months. And that communication is always better face-to-face, verbally, as compared to it being over Zoom, or in this case, Steve Wilks talking to Fred Woerner via the headset. Like, if you're on that sideline, I want to feel your presence. I want to look at you eye to eye. If we have a disagreement, we can talk about those things and work those wrinkles out. And if we want to have an argument or we want to have a productive conversation, it's easier to do it one-on-one as compared to it being over the phone or virtually. So I think that that's one of the things Kyle Shanahan said that he's going to talk to Steve Wilks about this week going into the bye. And I think it's something that you might see as a change made going into that game against Jacksonville in 2 Sundays. All right, if you're ready to start the show, I am. Traces, are you? If you're ready to rock, show me. Hit that thumbs up icon, like the video. 208 people watching live. I told you, the more likes that we get, the more people who are going to hang out. Shout out to the recent commenter club, Caesar, Gabriel, Henry, Lore, J-Dub, Faith, Felicity, and X Destroyer. X Destroyer, first live stream that he's hanging out here with us. The official show is about to start right now, live on the San Francisco 49ers Report. So Niners country, let's mine and let's get it. So it's a bye week for the San Francisco 49ers, but there's never a bye week right here on the 49ers Report. And coming up on today's show, we're going to try to find solutions for why this football team is struggling going into the bye week. A very good football team awaits into Sundays in the Jacksonville Jaguars. So coming up on today's show, some changes that the Niners need to make to become a better football team, end this 3-game losing streak during the bye week. First, though, if you're confident that the Niners can get back on track and look like the team that started 5-0 instead of the team that since that point has gone 0-3, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. If you don't have confidence in this club, I want you to comment why. Bye week change number 1. This is a very important one, and it's paramount for this squad. The pass rush has to get home. San Francisco's inability during this 3-game losing streak has been a problem, and their inability to finish and sack the quarterback has led to the defense getting shredded, especially in back-to-back weeks against Kirk Cousins as well as Joe Burrow. And the number to focus on here is 18. The San Francisco 49ers are tied for 18th among 32 teams in the NFL with only 18 sacks. If after 8 games I would have told you that with this defense that the Niners would only have 18 sacks, you'd probably think that would be a problem, and maybe you would project that the Niners are having issues on the defensive side of the football. That's exactly what's happening with this team. You look at the Niners sack leaders. I need these numbers to get better. You made the trade deadline acquisition for Chase Young. He immediately becomes number 1 in sacks on this team with 5. Nick Bosa, highest paid non-quarterback in the history of football. He has a lot of quarterback pressures, a lot of quarterback hits. His pass rush win rate is really good, but he only has 3 sacks. He's come close to sacking the quarterback, but close but no cigar. It's not going to cut it in a results-driven business. Javon Hargrave hasn't done anything since week 3 against the New York Giants. Him and Bosa are getting double-teamed a lot, and a lot of the other players along this defensive line haven't been able to take advantage of those matchups. Drake Jackson has 3 sacks. That's tied for second on this team. Guess what? All 3 of those sacks came in week 1. We're now going into week 9. And then Eric Armstead, pretty much held in check as far as his sack total goes up until last week's game against Cincinnati when he was able to notch 2. So getting home, sacking the quarterback, finishing makes the back end's job a lot easier. And in turn, I think it'll massively help this Niners defense fix some of the issues that they've been having, especially the last 2 weeks. Change number 2, fix the secondary. This is a tall test for defensive coordinator Steve Wilks. In those aforementioned last 2 weeks, Kirk Cousins, 35 of 45, 378 yards. He was cooking on 3rd down. Joe Burrow last week, 28 of 32, 365 yards. When you combine Kirk Cousins and Joe Burrow against this defense, which was number 1 in the NFL last year and is just as talented, if not more talented, those 2 signal callers have gone to combine 63 of 77. That is unacceptable, and Steve Wilks has to figure it out. Some chat stats on this Niners passing defense. In week 8, Joe Burrow only threw into tight coverage 9.4% of the time. That was the 5th lowest mark in week 8. The week before that, on the road against Minnesota, Kirk Cousins only threw into tight coverage 6.7% of the time. That was the 2nd lowest mark in week 7. There are a couple of different reasons for why that's happening. Niners haven't been able to generate that consistent pass rush. The secondary is having to hold up a little bit too long in coverage, but also this defensive front and this back end are not in sync. It's part of the reason why this defensive unit for San Francisco and this organization has really been so good going back to Robert Saleh and DeMeco Ryans, because there was that synergy. There was that continuity from the defensive line to the linebacking core at that 2nd level to the secondary at that 3rd level. This year, though, the front and back end are not in sync. That has to get changed in the bye week as well. And I thought what Richard Sherman said about the changes that he would implement for this Niners defense pretty interesting. He said, look, if I'm the defensive coordinator, we are going back to the fundamentals here. We're going back to the things that we do well. We're not running man on 1st and 2nd down like the Niners have been doing. I'm not a big fan of it. I don't think they're sound. We're going to mix it up moving forward. Our defensive line is going to have to get hot like they've been doing, and they've done the last few years, for you to take them out of what they do well and for you to sit there and run gains and stunts and do all of these other things instead of just ears back, get after the quarterback like these guys have specialized in the last 3-4 years. I got to be honest. It's weird, Sherman said. It's weird, and I think Kyle Shanahan has had enough. I think this is the straw that broke the camel's back, and I think that there will be changes next week. And some of those changes that Sherman kind of relayed there, they all seem to make some sense. And if you think about it, right, if you're running a twist stunt, it's going to take a little bit longer for Nick Bosa when previously he would go from point A, bull rush, point B to the quarterback. Now he's having to come across some defensive linemen. He's having to wait on some of those stunts and pulls, and it just delays the pass rush a little bit. And Nick Bosa's been so close to racking up more sacks. Milliseconds off. Those milliseconds, you can cure that by not having to run all those stunts. From time to time, of course, you want to be able to do that to mix up your looks. Not all the time and not as often as what Steve Wilks is doing. Before we continue to move forward with our changes during the bye week for this team, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We are closing in on 100,000 subs, and once we get there, we're getting that silver plaque from YouTube. We're currently sitting at 99,334 people who are subscribed to this program worldwide, and what you get in the process, if you do hit that sub button, some of the most informative, entertaining, and insightful Niners coverage every day and year round. Prize Picks is our sponsor for today's show. We can get you hooked up with the best daily fantasy sports app, and in the process, you get up to a $100 deposit match. All you have to do, plug in that link at the bottom of your screen, prizepicks.com/CLNS, and use the code CLNS. The game that Prize Picks has really mastered, you choose more or less on 2 or 3 athletes' projected stat totals, and it makes game days a whole hell of a lot of fun. And what's cool is that now that the NBA season is here, you can combine your NBA picks as well as your NFL picks. The picks that I'm rocking with this week as to kind of monitor the situation here going into week 9, biggest game on Sunday, Philadelphia Eagles, Dallas Cowboys. A lot of implications for San Francisco considering both of those teams really good in the NFC. DeAndre Swift, more than 61.5 rushing yards. Jake Elliott, more than 1.5 field goals, and Dak Prescott, I think, is going to be able to air it out against that Philadelphia defense. 253.5 passing yards. I like the more there. So one more time, code CLNS. We're going to put that link down below in the comments section as well as in the description of this video. Look, we're closing in on 100,000 subscribers. A big reason why we can land a great sponsor like Prize Picks, the largest independently run daily fantasy sports app in North America, is because of all of your support. Let's continue to progress on today's show. Another point of emphasis here for San Francisco as we shift over to the offensive side of the football, the Niners have to stop turning the rock over. They're coughing it up. They're getting far too sloppy. When the Niners got off to that 5-0 start, they took the league by storm, best all-around team in football. They were +7 in turnover margin. Since going 0-3 and falling to 5-3 on the year, they are -3. And take a look at where these turnovers and missed field goals have happened on the field. The Niners have been close to scoring a lot of points. They haven't been able to capitalize, and this really bucks their momentum here. Against Cleveland, and I count missed field goals as turnovers, by the way, because it basically is. If you kick a ball from the 45-yard line, like the other team gets the ball at the 45-yard line, really good field position. So turnovers or missed field goals. Cleveland 36, Cleveland 23, Minnesota 15, Minnesota 22, Minnesota 49, Minnesota 40, Cincinnati 8 on that awful Brock Purdy interception on that broken shovel pass play, and then on the Cincinnati 26. So those turnovers have happened at inopportune times, and it's taken points off the board. How close was that Cleveland Browns game? 1 score. How close was that Minnesota game? 1 score. That Cincinnati Bengals game was close until they were able to pull that one out at the end and end up winning by a couple of touchdowns. Next up, Kyle Shanahan and this Niners team, they have to diversify the offense if we can go back to that, because this is an offense that has not been well-rounded. In fact, it's been one-dimensional. And George Kittle talked about that after the Bengals loss. The 49ers have fallen from behind in a lot of these games, and because of that, they've turned into a one-dimensional offense in which they're throwing the football a lot, and because of that, they've become predictable. Teams have been able to read and guess upon what they're doing, and in turn, they become a one-dimensional offense. And when you're a one-dimensional offense, you're throwing too much, and the strength of your football team is to run it, and Brock Purdy is at his best when you have that run-pass approach. You just become a lot more easy to defend, and that's been an issue during this 3-game skid. Up next, we've talked about this here on the show. Why I've been so frustrated with this team is they've been ill-prepared, they've been sloppy, and they've shot themselves in the foot. This team is far too talented to do all 3 of those things. And to see a team that has Super Bowl-level talent hurt themselves and hold themselves back, it just really irritates me. I wanted to be a broadcaster since I was 5 years old. I had these massive goals in life of being one of the best broadcasters in this industry. It's not going to come to me if I don't work hard. It's not going to come to me if I just mail in these shows and I shoot myself in the foot. In anything that we do in life, you have to work at it. And the Niners, it seems as though they're not working on being a disciplined football team. And as part of that, they're not tackling. They missed 24 tackles in the first 5 weeks combined. During this 3-game losing streak, they have missed 32 tackles. That right there is unacceptable. And when you can't tackle, what happens? You're unable to come up with a stop on a big 3rd down or a 4th down. That changes the momentum of a game. But also, those missed tackles can go from a loss, minimal gain, medium gain, to large chunk plays to flip the field and put the opposition in a position in which they can put points on the scoreboard. And then from offense to defense, I just think in general, since beating the Cowboys 42-10, this is a Niners team that has become lazy, they've become overconfident, and they've been really sloppy as well. And again, that is not the championship standard that we've become accustomed to seeing from this Niners organization. That's not how they've made it to 3 NFC championship games over the last 4 years. They've made it by being talented, well-coached, winning in the clutch, winning some massive games, and being in sync. And right now, this team has not been in sync during this rough patch. And for the offense simply has to produce. And I want to see Kyle Shanahan take some ownership of this a little bit more as his coaching career goes on. And luckily, after he kind of threw Steve Wilks under the bus, he did take ownership of some of the offensive flaws. But during this rough stretch here, San Francisco has not scored more than 20 points in the last 3 games. They're missing on pull blocks. They're missing on blocking assignments. They're dropping the football. And like I said, missing tackles on the defensive side of the ball. You have to execute. And in the words of Bill Belichick, he might be cooked now, but he's one of the best coaches of all time. Do your job. And then lastly, I think the bye week comes at a really good time. Kyle Shanahan said something interesting in the aftermath of that Bengals loss. He said, after going back and looking at the film, we look slow and we look tired. And I think over the last 3 weeks, the Niners have looked banged up, and they have looked like a monotonous team that has its tires stuck in the mud. Obviously, when you have 3 All-Pros who are injured, that doesn't help matters either. And going into this bye week, it's going to allow Trent Williams, who missed the last 2 games, to basically have a month to come back from that ankle injury that he suffered on the road against Cleveland. It's going to give Christian McCaffrey some much-needed time off to repair his body. He had that small tear in his oblique, but I think he's banged up and worn down in general because his usage rate was so high the first month and change of the season. He hasn't looked right for a little while. And then with Deebo Samuel, he said he's good to go coming out of the bye week. That's great news, but the Niners have also missed him. So when you're without your left tackle, it affects your run production, pass protection. Christian McCaffrey, you kind of lack depth at that running back spot. He's been overused and hasn't been the same explosive home run hitter, even though he's scoring touchdowns every single game. And then for Deebo, that affects your run game because he can run it, your pass game, picking up yards after the catch, but even some of the pre-snap motion and stuff, I think the Niners have missed some of those disguises to confuse the defense. So in general, you're going to miss Deebo Samuel. You're going to miss Trent Williams, but what can't happen and what is unacceptable, drops, penalties, turnovers, missed tackles. Got to get better, and hopefully this allows the Niners that necessary time to kind of think about these things. Some more quick hitters and some more changes that I would make. Play Jordan Mason more. I'm not sure why he's not playing. I think it might come down to the fact that this coaching staff doesn't trust him because he's not good or up to their level of standard in pass protection. This is all I know. My eyes don't lie to me, and my eyes have never lied to me, right? Anytime Jordan Mason gets the football, it seems to be a positive play. So take some of the carries away from Christian McCaffrey, who you want to be fresher at the end of the year, run Jordan Mason, and I think that the Niners, the last 3 games in which they've all lost, they've missed and have lacked that physical presence. We'll run your ass over, we'll take your will. That's the identity of Jordan Mason. So I want to play him more. The Niners also have to bench Isaiah Oliver. We ran through the numbers earlier this week. Last 4 games, he is allowing a completion percentage of 100%. Can't happen. And I'd bench him, and I'd play Jair Brown. You took him in the 3rd round. Everybody was raving about him in OTAs and minicamp in the preseason, did a couple of nice things. He's a ball hawk. He's an instinctual player. He gives you another physical presence on that defense. I think that he'd try to prove himself, not miss as many damn tackles. And then the 5-man bear fronts. Steve Wilks experimented with this in practice in the preseason. We haven't seen a lot of it. Instead, all those twists, all those stunts, just delaying your ability to get after the quarterback. Now that you have Chase Young, I'm going 5-man front. You can't double team guys as much if you're the offensive line. And because of that, in turn, I think a lot of the players along this defensive line will be able to win a lot of their one-on-one matchups. So with that, you're the coach. What changes are you making? And what's your big change for San Francisco going into the bye week? Let me know down in the comment section. As always, thanks for watching the show. And if you enjoyed the program today, make sure you hit that sub button. Good stuff. Good start to the show. A couple of segments left. Appreciate y'all for being here. Like I said, it's a bye week, but we're not taking any days off. 268 people watching live, 109 likes. Please make sure you continue to hit that thumbs up icon, like the video. Val Brooks, what up, Val? Smith S., Mr. Black Ice, God Emperor, and Aaron Davenport, as well as Michael Reagan and Cummings LaCourtney, all a part of the recent commenter club, and my boy B-Dog. We continue to run through your questions here as well. Cornhusker49. Why is Steve Wilks just on the hot seat? Why is he not just gone? Look, Steve Wilks has a pretty good track record as a defensive coordinator and defensive mind in this league. The Niners still have some pretty solid defensive numbers. I broke those down on the show a little bit earlier today. They're still number 5 in points per game. They're still top 5, top 10 in a lot of major defensive statistical categories. So I know the last couple of weeks have certainly been ugly for San Francisco, but I think that when a guy like Richard Sherman says, I'm not going to be the defensive coordinator for this team, I'd be in over my head. The answers are inside the building. I do believe the answers are inside the building. Everybody just kind of has to look in the mirror. They have to make the necessary adjustments that you make throughout the course of a football season, and you just got to put that work in. Felicity9605, do you think Chase Young will be a good player for the Niners? I do. He's been one of the best defensive ends in the NFL this year. Career high in pressure rate. Pass rush win rate is really good. Has 5 sacks, which leads the team right now. And I think just having another elite edge rusher on this team will open up some opportunities for everybody else along that front. Robert James next up. We can't hope that Wilks will wake up and the defense gets better. This is basically the same group we had last year, but with a different coach. Get a new defensive coordinator sooner and not later. I will say this. While I don't believe they're going to fire him during the bye week, and I don't agree with firing right now, I think it's a little bit too soon. If they struggle against Jacksonville with a couple of weeks to prepare for that team that's also coming off the bye, then the temperature will be turned up a little bit. Make sure you get on the show like Robert James. Use hashtag 49ers or send in a super chat. We love hearing from the faithful, and we do have a bye week super chat menu for those of you who feel like donating to the show and sending us in a tip. All super chats get a shout out. $10 Niner mug cheers. $20 we'll do 20 jumping jacks. $50 for a beer bong, and $100 you become a new exclusive member of the Gold Mine Hall of Fame. Coming in now, it is a first time super chatter. Shout out to Nathaniel Johnson. What up, Nate? Biggest change I make as defensive coordinator on the field and slapping asses and helmets. Get these guys hyped. So earlier on, I was talking about that impact. And I'll just briefly go through it because I don't want to repeat myself because a lot of the same people are still watching. But I like coming to work every day. I like having interpersonal communication as compared to just messaging on Slack or talking through Zoom. When you're looking at somebody eye to eye, I just think the message gets across. The facial expressions are able to get across. You're able to feel the vibe of the room. And football is all about communication, adjustments, So if they're being relayed through a headset like this thing right here, it's just not as effective. Our Super Chat menu, as I said, all Super Chat. Shout out, $10 Niner mug cheers, 20 for the Jacks, 50 for the beer bong, 100 for the Goldmine Hall of Fame. We're up to $10 in donations, so I'm going to give you a Niner mug beer cheers. It's Thirsty Thursday, it's Friday, Junior, and we're hanging out here on the show. Everybody type Nate in the chat. First timer. First time, long time. Nate. Val Brooks got that movement started by typing Nate. All right. Next up on the show, we have a Deebo Samuel injury update. Niners making some roster moves. And could San Francisco sign Chase Young to a contract extension? Who's ready to go to segment number 2? I want you to type me in the chat. Tommy Air, Chase was a steal. I know. Chat Sports did a great job hiring me. Oh, you're talking about the other Chase on the Niners now, Chase Young. Jokes. King the wide receiver.
Well, it is interesting. It's Chase Young, Chase Sr.
Oh.
That's
I didn't think
interesting.
about that. I didn't think about that.
There you go. So now we have a T-shirt.
Chase Young and Chase Sr. Two opposite sides of the spectrum.
But both are dogs.
You can chase the young or you could chase the senior citizen. Age is just a number in relationships.
Dog.
Gina G, type in me. Val Brooks, you're my favorite Chase. Thank you, Val. Looking very pretty in the profile picture there. All right, next up on the show. A lot of news to get to here on the program. So without further ado, let's get it. Coming up on today's San Francisco 49ers report, we have an update on Deebo Samuel's shoulder injury, and it's positive. The Niners getting close to making a couple of roster moves. And could San Francisco, after trading away a third-round pick for Chase Young, as he's in the final year of his contract, sign him to a contract extension after this year? And what is the word on that situation? Stay tuned to find out. We begin with the latest on Deebo Samuel. He was on Kay Adams' show. She asked him how he's doing during the bye week. I looked at Deebo Samuel's Instagram story. Looks as though he's getting set to go on a vacation to enjoy some time away during the bye week, and hopefully he's continuing that shoulder rehab. Some good news on this front. He told Kay Adams, I'm ready to go coming out of the bye week. So it looks as though Deebo going to be in that Niner uniform in Week 10 on the road against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I think that during this 3-game losing streak in which Deebo has missed the Vikings and Bengals game in totality and was pretty much out almost the entire game against the Cleveland Browns, because he even said he got hurt early in that first quarter, that San Francisco has really missed the 2021 All-Pro, who is in better shape this year after being disappointing last year, look to have that explosiveness back as well as that juice back. But you think about Deebo Samuel as a football player. Deebo, when he's on the field, is a game breaker. Anytime you get the ball in his hands, he is a legitimate threat to take it to the crib, whether it be on an end around, a reverse, a carry out of the backfield, a bubble screen, an occasional long ball, a crosser, some type of play in which he catches the ball that allows him to pick up yards after the catch. You can use him in a plethora of ways. And anytime that you can use him and get him the ball, he is a threat and one of the most special playmakers in the National Football League. So without him, the Niners have felt his absence. He has this rare ability to turn garbage into gold as well. And sometimes just picking up easy yards can benefit this offense dramatically. For instance, how often have things seemed to be so difficult for this team on the offensive side of the football at times during this 3-game skid? Now, at times, they're moving the football, and they've shot themselves in the foot by turning it over in opponent's territory. But also at times, you just want to be able to give Brock Purdy, after a couple of interceptions, an easy little bubble screen. You get blockers out in front on those pulls. You get some wide receivers setting up downfield, and Deebo can turn what looks to be a negative play into a 20-yard gain. So the Niners have missed the explosive element to his game as well. San Francisco has also really struggled in the ground game. More numbers on that in a moment. Deebo can help you there, and he can also help you take some of the workload off of Christian McCaffrey, because he could certainly use less carries and less usage. Deebo is another weapon that Kyle Shanahan can scheme up for all of the reasons that I talked about earlier. Shanahan is a very creative play designer and play caller. He puts Deebo, Aiyuk, George Kittle, all these weapons in a position to succeed. But when Deebo is out, everybody else gets elevated up the depth chart, and the weaponry, the depth of that wide receiver unit just isn't the same. And then this is something that I think is sneakily not talked about enough. It's the pre-snap motion disguise. When Deebo went out against Cleveland, a lot of delay of games. It looked like players didn't know where to be and when to be in that position. With some of the pre-snaps, they were late to run across the line of scrimmage. So you kind of run some of those pre-snap motion disguises where Deebo can flex out wide. He can go from out wide into the slot. You can fake a little jet sweep. You can fake a little reverse behind you. A lot of different things that you can do from a creative football sense that just gives the defense something else to think about because they always have to account for where Deebo Samuel is. And in this 3-game losing streak, you look at the Niners' running success rate. It's fallen off of a cliff. When they were 5-0, they were number 5 in the NFL in running success rate. But since Deebo Samuel and Trent Williams have been banged up from that Cleveland game on, they've dropped all the way to number 15th in the NFL in running success rate. So that's the latest on Deebo. As for the latest pertaining to the Niners roster moves, this could be a game changer coming down the stretch. And I know it's a little bit rich to expect Samuel Womack, year 2, and Darrell Luter Jr. as a rookie to have a profound impact on this team down the stretch, but they're going to be better than Isaiah Oliver. And if they can get back on the field, and John Lynch said that both of them are on the verge of returning, that could help this secondary a little bit. And we know that the Niners could need it, and they didn't make any moves to address that area at the deadline. Samuel Womack has been on IR with a knee injury, close to coming back, as I said. The same could be said for Darrell Luter Jr., who had that knee bruise. Niners put him on IR as well. And what this means simply just helps out the secondary. And the story that the NFL trade deadline tells for San Francisco, they traded for Chase Young. They did not address the cornerback position. So organizationally, I think San Francisco believes that they can get that secondary figured out, especially if the defensive line is synced up with that back end, because oftentimes in coverages you have to be. And the Niners, in trading for Chase Young, they like the personnel in the secondary, but they're banking on the pass rush getting home, getting it figured out, and sacking the quarterback. Because if you're a corner, think about how tough of a position that is to play. You're going up against some studs every single week, but the rules are against you because everything is catered to offenses in today's NFL. If you have to cover for 8 to 10 seconds instead of just 3, you can keep wide receivers in front of you very easily for 3 seconds. Once the play gets elongated, you're kind of screwed on that back end. Womack and Luter do have the ability to play the slot. So then you take Isaiah Oliver off the field. You have Charvarius Ward on the outside, Deommodore Lenoir on the outside. Womack and Luter can play in the slot. Or if you like Lenoir out of the slot, you could play him at nickel as well, and you could pop out Womack and Luter to the outside. Luter, before he got hurt during rookie minicamp, was doing some nice things. He was one of our winners at that point. And then he got hurt in training camp and in the preseason. Womack, on the other hand, was having a really good training camp. Both of those players, the Niners identified them both. Small schools. Toledo for Womack. I think South Alabama for Luter. They had ball skills at the college level and a knack for making plays on the football that could really help this team. And speaking of their impact, you got to imagine it'd be better than Isaiah Oliver. Everybody who disagrees with me has gotten into the comment section and said, Chase, you're ripping Isaiah Oliver. He's been really good against the run, making some tackles behind the line of scrimmage for some TFLs. Look, that's great and all, right? When you're a cornerback, I need you to be able to cover. And Isaiah Oliver has shown all year that he cannot cover. And I'll eat the crow. I've said that. I've admitted it. I thought Isaiah Oliver was going to be a pretty good pickup for San Francisco. He's been awful. The last 4 games, he has allowed a 100% completion rate. That's tough to do. 8 catches on 8 targets, 71 yards and 2 touchdowns. For the season, he is the second worst cornerback statistically in the NFL. He's given up 35 of 40 passes for a completion percentage of 87.5. That ain't going to cut it. You know what's not going to cut it? If you don't subscribe to the channel. Because don't you want to be informed about this football team every day, year round? If the answer to that is yes, then make sure you subscribe because we bring you the best Niners analysis right here on YouTube. So subscribe to us here on the San Francisco 49ers Report. Also, sign up with our sponsor, Prize Picks, if you want to get in the game. Prize Picks, the independent largest independently run daily fantasy sports app in North America. Good job, Chase. You went 1 for 3. That's a .333 batting average. I'd be going to the Hall of Fame. It's all about how you finish. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. You pick 2+ players. You choose more or less on their projected stat lines, and you can get up to a $100 deposit match at prizepicks.com/CLNS. Those of you who were tuned into the watch party last week and you tailed me on my picks, we almost took it home. The cool option, though, I wanted to go big or go home, and I chose for all 3 of these to hit. But sometimes you can choose just 2 of 3. And if that's the case, I would have won a lot of money because I hit on Brandon Aiyuk more than 5 catches. I hit on Evan McPherson more than 5.5 kicking points. And then Brock Purdy, he only had 1 combined touchdown passing, rushing, and receiving. And we didn't get that one. But it's all good. It made game day a lot more fun. And I've won up to 25 times my money already playing with Prize Picks this football season. And now that the NBA season is here, you can combine your NBA and NFL picks. Next up on the show, let's talk about Chase Young here. Is he going to be with this organization for the long haul? Is he a rental? Could San Francisco sign him to a contract extension after this year? He's in the 4th and final year of his deal after the Washington Commanders did not exercise his 5th-year option. And this is certainly a big conversation among the faithful here. You look at the trade details. Whether the Niners extend Chase Young or they let him walk and he's just a rental, I think it's a win-win. He improves your football team right now. You bring in an impact player at a position of need. You're addressing a weakness. And you're addressing a big blemish on this team right now where they can't get after the quarterback. And you're giving up a 3rd-round compensatory pick for Chase Young, the former number 2 overall pick, who's been one of the best defensive ends in the NFL. And if he were to leave in free agency, the Niners can get a 3rd-round pick back. So basically, if he is a rental, you gave up a 3rd, but you get that 3rd right back. The Niners' ability to really master the compensatory pick formula is a big reason why this organization is one of the more forward-thinking teams in the NFL. Some insight on this Chase Young contract extension. This coming from ESPN's Dan Graziano, NFL insider. Whether Young is in the Niners' plans long-term remains to be seen. The Niners are in win-now mode and confront a number of difficult contract decisions next offseason. But Young was playing well in Washington and could be very energized to find himself in a division race and paired back up with Nick Bosa. For those of you who don't know, Chase Young and Nick Bosa did overlap at Ohio State. Bosa the number 2 pick in 2019, and then Chase Young the number 2 pick in 2020. And Chase Young, as I mentioned and alluded to, he's been one of the best defensive ends in all of football this year. Little bit concerning how long it took him to recover from the knee injury that he suffered in his sophomore campaign because he barely played in 2021 and in 2022. But in 2020 full season as a rookie, he was really good. Defensive Rookie of the Year. And this year so far, full season, he's been really good again. Now, some of you might say he's only playing well because he's trying to get the bag. That only helps his team. Because if he's motivated to get paid, it helps his team this year. He's 8th in total pressures among all defensive ends. He is 13th in sacks this year, 14th in pass rush win rate, 15th in Pro Football Focus's pass rush grade. And you combine them on this team, on this defensive line, with Javon Hargrave, Eric Armstead, Nick Bosa, Randy Gregory. There is no longer any excuse for why San Francisco can't rack up more sacks. If Young plays well, a couple of ways that you can look at this, it's certainly hard to let him go because you have this vision of one of the most tantalizing edge rushing combinations in the NFL for the foreseeable future for 2 players who are still very young in Chase Young and in Nick Bosa. But look, if he does walk and you don't bring him back on that lofty contract extension, the Niners gave up a third, and the Niners can get back a third for Chase Young. So I look at that, and it's kind of a win-win situation for San Francisco, given the player that they are bringing in and also what they gave up for Chase Young, who up to this point having a really good season. Here's what John Lynch had to say about the Chase Young trade and why San Francisco made it. I felt like it was the best deal to be had. We had a number of conversations. We've always been of the philosophy that it starts up front, and that was the deal that made the most sense for us. I like what John Lynch said because I believe that when you're building your football team, it is important to build it inside out. You obviously always want to have a quarterback, but you want to get after the opposing quarterback and protect your own quarterback. What I don't understand, and I'm calling cap on what John Lynch said there, we always want to build our football team up front. You're doing it with the defensive line. You got to start investing and focusing more and spending more along the offensive line because Spencer Burford and Colton McKivitz not getting the job done right now. So what should the Niners do with Chase Young? Are you paying for him, or do you think that he should just be a rental? Now is your opportunity to play the role of general manager John Lynch and get in that Niners front office. What do we got, y'all? Oh, really? Donaldo. Lies, lies, and more lies. What are you talking about, Donaldo? There are no lies being told. This is all factual information here. Guy in the comments said, let's discuss this at the end of the year. Tommy Air, Robert, Gina, all saying P. Steven Sierra, also pushing P, but said, see how he plays. And if he plays well, you pay him. Good thought. Ryan, we shall see how he performs. That will be the determining factor on paying him. Good insight from all of the real ones. Our guy, David Marcella, your friendly neighborhood Niner hater, is here. Everybody type F David in the chat. We love him, but he even admitted he's a Niner hater. F David. F David. David, you know I appreciate you. We're just messing around. Chadron, Lima, Johnny True, Nick, all a part of the recent commenter club. Great to see everybody hanging out here with us. So coming up next here on the show, we're going to talk about some free agents who are available for San Francisco after the NFL trade deadline. Some notable names at areas of need for the Niners if some injuries do happen. So that's what's coming up next. Danny Smith-Mathis, a Gold Mine Hall of Famer. Speaking of Gold Mine Hall of Famers, if you want to become one today, we could show you our Super Chat menu because Danny Smith-Mathis, a Gold Mine Hall of Fame member, but sometimes on our videos that we just put up on the channel, she'll send in a little super thanks from time to time. We love Danny. Our bye-week Super Chat menu. Niners on a bye, we don't take a bye week because our coverage continues. We got to do it for the people. All Super Chats today get a shout-out. $10, a Niner mug cheers. $20 for 20 jumping jacks. $50 for a beer bong. And if anybody wants to send in $100, you can get your name next to Danny Smith-Mathis as a Gold Mine Hall of Famer. So we're going to round out the show with some free agent targets for San Francisco. Just want to inform people on some of the key available players still out there that the Niners could sign. So that's coming up next. Jeremy Boyd, find and pay some corners and offensive linemen. That's a big point of emphasis going into this offseason, regardless of how this year plays out. All right, let's get to it. Our third and final segment, then we're down to hang out for a bit if you are. Coming up on today's show, top free agents left across the National Football League that the Niners could sign following the NFL trade deadline. This roster right now in a pretty good spot after that Chase Young trade, but certainly interesting that if an injury were to happen, especially at a position in which this Niners team is not deep at, some marquee names that we're going to look into. First, though, I want to chop it up with the faithful. It's been great to grow this channel to the point where we're closing in on 100,000 subscribers, but it's also awesome to interact with people from all across the globe and talk Niners with everybody. So if you want to hit me up on X, formerly known as Twitter, I'm on there at Chase_Senior. I'm on Instagram at Chase_Senior as well. And I've been emailing a lot of people, which has been a lot of fun. Sometimes it's just easier than me having to type with my fat fingers on my phone. I always have these spelling mistakes. Email me, chase@chatsports.com. Give me a follow on social media. Look forward to hearing from you. So if Brock Purdy were to go down at quarterback, are you thinking, okay, Sam Darnold can be the guy? And if you're confident in Sam Darnold, who would become the backup? Because San Francisco would have to canvass that market. Because right now, that quarterback 3 spot, you comfortable with Brandon Allen? Or would you rather go with one of these free agent quarterbacks? At the very least, you need to bring in insurance if Purdy were to get injured. And look, hurt his elbow in the NFC Championship game, then was in concussion protocol last year, dealt with the rib injury as well. The free agency crop at quarterback features 5 of these notable names, with the exception of Jimmy Garoppolo. We put a question mark there because he would have to either request to get cut by the Las Vegas Raiders or just be let go in general in order to sign with the Niners in free agency. But you're looking at Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, Colt McCoy, Nick Foles, and yes, Jimmy Garoppolo benched going into November after Raiders head coach Josh McDaniels and their general manager was canned and fired. The Raiders now going with Aiden O'Connell, who torched this team in the NFL preseason. And because of that, does Garoppolo pull a Derek Carr? Derek Carr got benched last year. He left the team. Is Garoppolo going to do the same? We will certainly see. Now, it's kind of tongue-in-cheek talking about that, but it is obviously an entertaining talking point, and I'm half joking here, but would you bring Jimmy Garoppolo back if you needed to and if Brock Purdy went down? Give me a YJG for yes or a no JG for no. At that wide receiver spot, San Francisco has really missed Deebo Samuel during this 3-game losing streak, and they're a little bit thin at wide receiver. I'm not sure if we're ever going to see Danny Gray, who suffered that shoulder injury in the preseason, but that's that burner that I would like to see on this team. And if another injury happens at wide receiver, you're getting really, really thin there. Notable names still on the market at wideout. Jarvis Landry put together some really great years for the Miami Dolphins and the Cleveland Browns. He's 30 years old, but looks a little bit older as far as his game. Marquez Callaway, only 26 years old. And how quickly did Kenny Golladay fall off? Got off to a great start with the Lions, got the bag, was awful with the New York Giants, but maybe a player like that could look to prove himself. Jarvis Landry, last 4 years, really started to fall off after the 2020 season because in 2019, that was a really good stretch in the years leading up to 2019 in which he was basically a shoo-in for 1,000+ yards every year, whether it was with Miami or with Cleveland. Really good hands, best coming out of the slot, very reliable player. But in 2019, 83 grabs for 1,100 yards and 6 touchdowns. Year after that, not bad in 15 games played, still 72 catches, 840 yards, and 3 touchdowns. But then in 2021, missed some time, only 12 games, that production 570, and then last year with the New Orleans Saints, it was supposed to be a homecoming. He went to LSU. It was not a happy homecoming for him or New Orleans, only played in 9 games there. At the running back position, we could talk about that because I think that backup running back is a little bit of an issue. I haven't loved what I've seen from Elijah Mitchell. For some reason, San Francisco is keeping Jordan Mason off the field. Couple of notable backs are available. Kenyon Drake is a versatile pass-catching and a guy who can also run the football, who's been very experienced in this league. Career stats in 103 games played, 868 yards, nearly 3,900 yards, average yards per carry at 4.5 with 33 touchdowns. I am a big fan of Jordan Mason because I love his physicality. If you want to go with the physical back instead of a finesse back like Kenyon Drake, you could go Leonard Fournette. He did sign with the Buffalo Bills practice squad, but as the rules are in the NFL, you can poach a player from a practice squad if you sign that player to the active roster over his career. Hasn't quite lived up to the expectations of being that top 5 pick by the Jacksonville Jaguars, but had a couple of good years in Jacksonville, won a Super Bowl with Tampa Bay. Even last year, I didn't think he looked awful, so that would be an option there as well. With that, we tee up our poll question. Let's hear from the faithful here. What's the Niners' biggest area of need on this roster here? We're covering all of our bases on today's show, so just let me know down in the comment section right now. A lot of you might be looking to go to a future Niner game. I highly recommend that you do, and if you do, I recommend that you use the Game Time app. The best app if you're looking for last-minute tickets, and there are a couple of really good games still left on the San Francisco 49ers schedule. And you can go to road games depending on where you live, or if you want a little bit of a travel weekend to watch the Niners play, or a lot of tickets available for some of these home games as well. Get a $20 off deal if you use the code NinersChat. We're going to put that link down below in the comments section as well as in the description of this video. I love Game Time because you can see where you'll be sitting and the vantage point from that seat and the price point that comes with it. Last-minute tickets and flash deals. I was able to go to the ALCS between the Astros and the Rangers recently, World Series champion Texas Rangers. I waited until the last minute. I was able to get tickets for under $50. But it's not just sports that you can go to and use this app for. Games, concerts, music, that and a whole lot more. Easy-to-use app. Views from the seats, lowest price guarantee, all of that information down below in the comment section of this video. Next position of need for San Francisco that they could address. Oh, that offensive line. The offensive line, I have a love-hate relationship with it. On that left side, Aaron Banks and Trent Williams are great. In the middle, very lukewarm on Jake Brendel. I think he gets pushed around a little bit too much because he lacks strength and size. The right side of that offensive line, Spencer Burford, Colton McKivitz have not been good. And if you want to bring in a better guard who's flourished at guard, who has shown he's probably not a good tackle, you bring in a guy like Lyle Collins. Last year with Cincinnati, he was a big-ticket free agency signing as the Bengals looked to bolster that offensive line. They wanted to keep Joe Burrow upright. Lyle Collins wasn't great, but last year he was playing tackle. You pop him inside and he plays guard. I think that he's just a better football player. Some concerns with the knee injury that he did suffer. Last year, though, 951 snaps. He gave up 5 sacks, 7 hits, 22 hurries, and a Pro Football Focus run grade of 73.5. Spencer Burford hasn't been great in the run game. And his backup now, John Feliciano, is going to have to step in for Aaron Banks, who's out the next 3 weeks because of turf toe. So Lyle Collins fortifies your depth and maybe even makes your offensive line a little bit better. A player who I don't really like is Andrew Norwell. He played last year for Washington. First of all, that Commanders' offensive line was already atrocious, and Andrew Norwell did not help matters. 16 games played, he gave up 4 sacks, 4 hits allowed, 21 hurries, had a run blocking grade of 59.9. That ain't good. That ain't it. But the problem is, if you're at this point of the NFL season and you're looking for offensive line help, not a lot of good options out there. We also have to talk about cornerback here. I think that a lot of the Niners' problems have been scheme and system because of Steve Wilks. It's the lack of production from some of your best players along that defensive line, and the secondary has been exposed a little bit, especially at that slot spot. Now, the Niners getting set to make some roster moves here. Samuel Womack, Darrell Luter Jr., 2 solid young corners. John Lynch said they're on the verge of returning, and when they come back, it helps out the secondary a lot. But are you going to be able to trust young players down the stretch in a playoff run? Or do you want to go after a veteran? Desmond King fits the veteran category. He played 1 snap on defense for the Steelers after he was cut in preseason by the Houston Texans. He's been in the league for a really long time. You also have Casey Hayward Jr., who at one point was a very, very good player, and then injuries have kind of curtailed his career to a certain degree. In 2022, only 6 games played because of those injuries. Completion percentage of 61.3, 1 interception, 3 pass breakups. That's not bad. in 6 games. Only gave up 1 touchdown as well, 225 yards, but certainly concerned with some of the medical issues there. We round out the show with this. Name a free agent that you want the Niners to sign. We talked about a few here on the show, and you let me know by dropping a name down below in the comment section. SAN-FRAN-CISCO. Good stuff on the show today. It's been a lot of fun hanging out with everybody. Up to $12 in Super Chats, 243 people watching live. Tommy Air, Lima, Henry, God Emperor, Jeff Connolly, all part of the recent commenter club, as is our boy, Mr. Block Ice. Just watch out for ETN when we play the Jags. Yes, very, very good player. All right, our bye-week Super Chat menu starting right now. I'm putting up a 2-minute Super Chat shot clock. I don't want to hold Trace too long because he's going to one of the biggest high school football games in the state of Texas this year at 7:30, which is in about an hour and a half. But 2-minute Super Chat shot clock is on.
Got to tailgate the game a little bit.
Yeah.
You know?
Allow Trace to tailgate.
Got to tailgate a little bit.
So if you want to send in some supers, let's get it popping. Dave Towers, Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. Oi, oi, oi. Him and his son are always watching the show. Dave, hope all is well. He said, have a great weekend, crew. Thank you, brother. Spider-Man said Stephon Gilmore, he's on the Cowboys.
Not available.
Johnny True, Deion Sanders. What? He's coaching Colorado.
Yes. I don't think he's coming back to play anytime soon, unfortunately.
Tommy Air, I'm broke, so I can't donate, but I love these videos. You don't have to donate. You could be a real one by just watching, by subscribing, by liking the video, and like you just did, Tommy, commenting. Steven Sierra, Richard Sherman for defensive coordinator. So that's pretty funny. I talked about this earlier today, and let me bring up the direct quote from Sherm. Let's see. Let me just pull up what I talked about a little bit earlier on the show. Go back and watch that. We were talking Steve Wilkes as well as Richard Sherman. I'm going to reset the Super Chat shot clock, by the way. So Richard Sherman was asked, hey, would you come to the Niners in season and be the defensive coordinator? And here's what Richard Sherman had to say. The answers are in the building, as Kyle Shanahan said. I would do my best if asked, but there is no world where they would ever or should ever pass over the incredible men that are in that building to hire someone with no coaching experience in the middle of the season. While I'm flattered by the support and belief from the faithful, I trust John and Kyle to find the solutions to the issues and get the defense back on track. So that's coming from Richard Sherman himself. But it would be fun, Steven, because I saw some photoshops, literally photoshops, of Richard Sherman as the Niners defensive coordinator.
Dude, I saw those too.
Pretty incredible.
It's crazy that we're getting photoshops and getting that for coaching.
Yeah.
Not just players.
So let me do this. If we get to $100 in Super Chats, I will do a beer boot. We're at $22 right now. We're at $22 right now. If we get to 100 in total, I'm doing this beer boot right here. I wanted to surprise y'all with it. It's filled up. It's ready to rock. We're at 22, but we have to get to $100 in Super Chats in the next 2 minutes. Can we do it? If not, all good. We're just going to sign off, call it a day, and thank y'all for being real ones and hanging out with us. If we do get there, shoot, we'll have a lot of fun. Is beer your favorite drink? Water is my favorite drink, Tommy Air. Ryan, why don't they play Jair Brown? So I talked about that earlier. I'm benching Isaiah Oliver as we were going through some of my bye week changes. I'm benching Isaiah Oliver, and I want to see more from Jair Brown. He can't be worse. Isaiah Oliver has given up a completion percentage over the last 4 games of 100%. Quarterbacks are 8 of 8 in targeting him. He's been one of the worst quarterbacks in all of football this year. Danny Smith Mathis also said, what about OC? Kyle Shanahan's killing us. I think there are a lot of reasons for why the Niners are struggling. I do think that Shanahan is a part of that for sure. Not solely to blame. And if I want an offensive mind in my corner across the NFL, he's one of them. No doubt. Everett, the Raiders were on for 24 hours yesterday after Josh McDaniel got fired. Why can't you do that? Well, we're not just going to go live for 24 hours just to do it. If the Niners won a Super Bowl, might be live for 24 hours.
I mean, at that point, it may not be intentional. We just may end up doing it.
And we were doing the math on this. The first 12 would be easy. You know, let's say the pregame show starts at 4. The game ends at like 11. And then like you have post-game shows and stuff like that. You can go 12 hours pretty easily there. The next 12.
That's where it gets tough.
Because
there's nothing to talk about. There's no more
football
football.
to talk about.
There's no more football after that.
Yeah.
We talk about NBA.
Bringing in other content creators could help a little bit.
That would help. That'd be
just
fun.
allowing your voice to get a little bit of a rest. But here's the thing. The Raiders went live for 24 hours because their coach got fired and they're a dysfunctional organization. You don't really want that if you're a Niner fan. You kind of like how this team has been able to contend in this window.
Also, the Raiders celebrated that because
Gene! A $50 super chat. We're 29 away from getting to 100, and I'll do this beer boot.
Let's go.
There's no way we can't get there.
Let's go.
As Gene, so far, our super chat MVP. Gene coming in clutch, as Tommy Air said. Everybody type Gene in the chat.
What's up, Foot?
I saw your message. We'll figure it out.
Gene.
Everybody type Gene in the chat.
Gene
in the chat. Bees in the trap. Gene in the chat.
Yeah. Is it sour? It's not that sour.
29 away from a beer boot.
Is the yellow one lemon? I hate the red one. Pretty good.
29 away from a beer boot. Can we get there? Harry Matthews, Big G. Time in the Buckeye, Gene. David Corona, back in the building. Steve said, that's not the real Gene Washington that played in the NFL, is it? I'm not sure. Is it Gene? Daywalker, Joseph, Timon. Chug said that earlier. All right, we got the 50. So I got to do something for Gene. What was our super chat? Walter Grant with the 5. We're 24 away. 24 away from 100. I want to take down this beer boot to get this Thursday started. Love the show, Senior, from Michael Reagan. Thank you, homie.
I'll do the beer bong either way, but we're going for the beer boot too.
Yes.
I'll do the beer bong with Chase if we can get to 100.
Let's ride. 24 away. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving.
I'm not freaking leaving.
David said somebody drop a 5 and I'll drop a 20.
That'll get us there.
David Marcella. David Marcella. That's a legend right there.
Gene Washington wore number 18 on the 49ers.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Very nice. How much? Nathaniel 2401. Nate. A second time super chatter. All right.
I'll go grab the beer bong.
Trace is going to get the beer bong. I'm doing the beer boot. That's right. Yeah. What's up? Steven Sierra with the 10 during the boot. What's good? Text me. Trace is coming on for a beer bong, by the way, and then we'll sign off. Hold on, oh God, yeah, I'll check it out. Oh, jeez.
Let's go, Nate!
Trace. Everett, I think Chase got some beer bubbles in his nose. Everett, I took down that bubble. It was hard, though. Now, the trick is you got to turn it or just, like, take it slow. I just kind of went a little slow about it, but that bubble was nasty. Then win. They will lose the rest of the season if they play like this under Wilkes. Not 4 in a row. Uh-oh. Then, not confident, huh? All right, we're signing off. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Everett. Yeah, Everett. Raiders was crazy. We've had crazy shows like that. And if the Niners win a Super Bowl, shoot, you never know. We might be live for 24 hours. Who knows? All right, for Trace, I'm Chase, the Pocket Aces. We are out. Bye week for San Francisco, but still Niners videos coming your way every day on this channel. So make sure you subscribe. And until next time, we out. Peace.